best beatbox.
Hold on.
Take off your glasses.
No, I can't.
You don't need them.
Yeah, I can't see without them.
Take them off, baby.
I'm straight up Velma in the 21st century with a dick.
Where's my glasses?
I can't see without my glasses.
All right, Ben, do a beatbox. You gotta be more in the mic. That's pretty good. That's very hype.
Yeah. You gotta get into it. You can't half-ass a beatbox.
I feel like you'd hyperventilate and just pass right the hell out.
No,
mid beatbox. What if somebody was just doing like a 15-minute cipher? That'd be crazy.
You just keep going with it. You get you got your like you're the hype. Like honestly, let's go the chain of command here. You got the rapper.
Mm-hmm.
You got his. You got the beatboxer.
Yeah.
Who's like
then
his
you got the
man.
hype man. No, the beatboxer and then the hype man.
Well, yeah.
The hype man's the guy that's like, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
So you got like
Ooh.
the rapper's got like his jester, who is his hype man, and
Yes.
you as the beatboxer have to have your own hype man, who's just kind of like the silent guy who has a water bottle, who's just like kind of like spraying it out. He's like misting
Spritzing you. As
Yeah,
one of those
he's got
little,
like
spray
Windex
bottles.
Yeah, he's like spritzing you, and he's like whenever you guys have like when you go, he's like spraying water in your throat because yeah.
What if you like choke on it? I like that.
Yeah, you gotta get into it.
That's good. Ben's an aspiring beatboxer, so
Uh-huh.
if you would like to contact him for his services,
A newfound alcoholic.
uh,
I drink now. A lot sometimes.
you ever hear the beatboxing? where they're like,
now.
you ever hear the beatboxing where they're like, yeah, it's just like a lot of. This is probably gonna like panic some people.
Some people who have just like who have regular panic attacks when like they just think about it. It's just an onset thing.
Mm-hmm. It's insane.
Gotta be fresh.
You gotta be fresh.
Gotta be fresh.
All right, hello and welcome everyone to We Found a Book. This is our monthly podcast, storytelling podcast. And you know, Ben, I picked up a new thing that I like to explain this show to people.
Sure.
By saying that was really stilted, but it's like reading Rainbow for adults.
Reading Rainbow for adults, but you can't see our faces.
But you can't say it.
Rest assured, we are not as attractive or talented as LeVar Burton.
I'm sitting here and looking at Ben with his shirt completely unbuttoned. He's holding his microphone cord as to do something. I don't know. Keep it out of his body.
Yeah.
And he's just beautiful. He's wearing lime green pants. And it's a sight.
Get at me.
You're all missing out.
Get at me. My man boobs are coming in nice and well. We haven't been to the gym in a while.
How long has it been?
Like 2.5 months. Not counting the one day we went. Let's not count that.
I'm gonna count it. It's only been like 3 weeks.
Even that's pretty bad.
Only 3 weeks. I got a pretty good ab exercise when we went to Badfish. I woke up and my abs were sore. I was like, must have been from crumping too hard. Uh-oh.
Who's that one guy we met in the tent? Mike was his name, I think.
Oh, the dude. Yeah, his name was Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy comes up to us. Ben's mother was kind enough to buy us VIP tickets for a free concert. So
yeah.
we were like in a little special area where we got free food and bevs. And this guy comes up to us and he's like, what did he say to us? What was the first thing he said to us?
I think you know what it was? I saw him and he was carrying he was a big guy, so you get 3 free beverages and then everything else is only like $3, so it's not really not that bad. But he was carrying like a full like 3 cups in one hand. He was like trying to sip out of all 3 of them, and I was like, mind you, I was already a couple like brewskis deep, so I was like, yeah, and he was like, hey, and we started talking, and Austin and I were in between this heated war match.
Oh yeah, we were playing war.
We were playing cards at a loud
like
concert.
that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he comes over and he just starts talking to us, and I don't remember what we said to him at all. We talked about war, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a very important game.
Definitely.
It's where you each put down cards, and for each round, whoever has the highest card takes the other person's card. It's pretty intense. I know if you can't follow it, that's okay. Don't feel bad.
We're not gonna go into detail. This isn't the card playing podcast.
No, that's on Wednesdays
Yeah.
every week. I know we only do this monthly on the first of every month, but we do that every Wednesday.
Sounded good.
To talk about cards. But so we were talking to him, and he's like, all right, guys. Oh, before I leave, do I have any white in my nose? I'm like, no, you're good. So he did a Coke.
He did a Coke.
He did a Coke.
He did a big Coke.
Don't do drugs, kids. It's bad for you.
Does that sound good? Welcome to the silent cast. Stop, you're ruining it. We kind of suck at this. Let's go back to telling stories.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So this one time I was going
You're pretty bad at that too.
I was doing this thing.
It's one time I was
this thing. Hey, we have a book for this. Why aren't we doing that?
Oh, do you need to go to that already?
Yeah.
Do you need to already rely on the crutch?
Yeah.
Of what? So what's new in your life, Ben? It's
What's new in
been
my
a
life?
month since we've last communed.
I don't know what happened last month.
The folks. I came into your house.
Oh that's right.
Yeah, don't swear. Just remember not to do that because I'm gonna edit that out.
Let's put beeping noises in.
Maybe I'll figure that out one day.
Or cat noises.
I could probably take that and then put it on there.
Yeah, just do that.
Maybe I will.
Just do that. Ask me again what I did last month.
What'd you do last month?
So, what did I do last month? I've been...
Busy month?
No, I mean, I've been working a lot, but other than that, it's more like...
It's been a long time for Ben. He just keeps looking away from the microphone.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk into it.
Yeah. I'm always bad with talking to the mic. Anyways, I was working at my job, and I might have found a new job, so that's kind of fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. That was a good story.
It's at a nice rink.
It's a nice rink. I thought
Yeah.
you said it was a hockey shop.
Yeah, but it's connected to a ice rink. And I'd be learning how to sharpen skates.
You get to skate for free?
Probably. And I also apparently get free snacks at the snack bar.
Gosh, that's amazing. I'm proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
So proud of you.
So, Austin, what did you do last week?
Last week?
Last month. This entire month.
I went on a service trip to Du Bois, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you've been traveling.
I think that was it right though.
Oh, you're going
Oh yeah,
now.
then I went there and then I went to my parents and I took down wallpaper for a week, which was a lot of fun. But while I was taking down wallpaper, I watched Death Note, like the whole series.
Yeah.
So that was productive. It's a good show. It's pretty good.
Oh, I watched all of Cowboy Bebop.
Was that the first time you've ever seen it?
The entire series.
Yeah.
I saw most of the episodes, but it had been a while. It's an old anime. It's a good one. But
What are your thoughts on Cowboy Bebop?
I love everything, but the ending was phoned in.
Oh yeah?
It was straight up phoned in.
Why?
Okay, spoilers. And
How
then,
old is the show?
what?
How old is this anime?
Came out in 1998.
Spoilers for
Spoilers
a
for any-
16-year-old anime.
Yeah. So, the entire show, you're following this kind of ragtag group of
Heroes.
I guess you could call them that.
Who would you say there's
They're bounty hunters.
Would you say there's an enemy that they're working against?
No, but
No?
they try to they present one, but he's not active throughout the majority of the thing. It's like everything revolves around this one like titular character who is the I said it. Yeah, I said it.
Titular.
Who's Spike Spiegel, and he's like the main bounty hunter of this group, and he's just kind of like this like nonchalant, like nothing really gets to him kind of guy. But like there's this one person who he absolutely hates, and his name's Vicious, and it's because he lost
His name's Vicious?
His name's Vicious, and
That's
he
cool.
looks the part.
It's a sweet name.
Yeah.
What's his last name?
He doesn't have one. How about that?
Whoa.
How about that? He's just vicious.
That's awesome.
It is.
I'm going to get rid of my last name. And then I'm going to change my first name
That's to Vicious.
to Vicious, actually. How did you know?
I'm good with that kind of stuff.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, to kind of wrap, I'm not gonna go through the entire plot of the thing, but like the entire premise of the show, from like episode, like from the beginning of the show to like the ending, like the last like up to like the last like 3 episodes, cut like save for like maybe 1 or 2 that actually focus on this like kind of like revolving plot they kind of circle back to. It's just a bunch of like small funny episodes of them like going out to find like this like bounty that they need to get. Sometimes they catch them, sometimes they don't, but it's always like a kind of shenanigans driven
They always
thing.
have a good time.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's
They always learn something.
yeah,
They learn what the world is really like.
yeah, and it's always got, you know, it's
They learn how to be good people.
Yeah, it's an anime, so
They
it's
learn
always,
to respect their parents.
it's an anime, so it's always very quirky and it's always very weird, and it's got that kind of charm to it, and it has a phenomenal soundtrack. If anyone loves like any kind of like old folk, like bluegrass, folk, or jazz music, and it's
Play
awesome.
Mario 64.
Yeah, or yeah, actually, that's kind of true. I don't know what song that is, but it sounds pretty bluegrass.
You know that?
Oh, that's
sick.
No, that's Super Mario World. That's not a.
No, that's in 64, except it starts out like it's a lot more twangy.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to go back and find it. Anyway, back to my excellent regaling of an anime. So like the entire premise of them is like they're wacky characters that you wouldn't really see together, slapstick comedy, blah blah blah, very charming. But like the only thing that really ties this all together is like a chronological anime.
Get to the plot then. Get to the intrigue.
I'm trying to. Is this character Spike Spiegel has this thing where he was part of like a syndicate of like
bounty hunters.
No, like just
Spike Spiegel.
He was a mobster basically. And they don't go into any other detail than that, which I kind of like because it leaves things up in the air. It's like, okay, all I know to know he was a bad guy, and he was in this thing. He was in this like mercenary group with this guy named Vicious. They used to know each other, and there happened to be this girl who was also in the syndicate that they both liked. Her name was Julia. That's all I needed to say. And then like the entire, like, and there's this kind of like entire like revolving arc about how all these characters are kind of coming to terms with their past. Everyone on the Bebop, which is the ship that they fly around on, has their own individual story about how
Like Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. And it's about like how they kind of come to terms with their past. Like,
how does the so we know how the Bebop part comes into play.
Yeah.
Where does Cowboy? How is that relevant?
There's one episode where Spike has to fight a cowboy. So there you go.
So that's why.
And they say Cowboy Bebop in that. And I'm like, oh, there it is. They said it once. It's good.
They said it.
It's canon. So the entire kind of plot is about like whenever there's like a serious story where like they kind of like make you think rather than like make you laugh. It's about how one of the characters you become close with is like dealing with how they like how they've like kind of escaped their past. So like one of the girls doesn't have a past because she was, you know, she's kind of like she was like in a really bad,
never born.
She was in a really bad.
She's just always existed.
Sure, you can say that. She
doesn't have a past.
Yeah, to see Austin's rendition of it. Go ask him about it on wefundabook.gmail.com.
Go to www.cowboybebop director's cut / Austin's take / rendition / caret 648329
/ this doesn't exist. Let's get back to what I was saying.
Wow, now they're not going to be able to find the web address because you cut me off. Well, I'm not going to say it again because I'm bitter and I'm that's my passion project. I don't care.
Folks, I'm soloing this project now.
What are you soloing?
I'm soloing this entire thing. Austin's bitter. He's not going to talk anymore.
Yeah, I'm done talking.
Anyways, just to make a long... I always do this. I always run too long. So Austin's shaking his head. He's giving me a mean look and he's shaking his head. He knows it. Basically, the entire plot is like whenever you see a main character, it's about how they kind of like how they kind of cope with how they've made past mistakes, and they kind of like it comes full circle. They deal with it. They find a way to do it. And it's like Spike this entire time saying, "Don't go back to your past." They all take his advice. They all succeed. Spike falls in on his own tropes, and he says, "I'm not gonna go back." He ends up going back. He gets himself killed. This story ends. And it's just like you see this entire like evolution of characters, like where it's like it's very strong, it's very powerful. They all know what they're doing. They all like have personal goals and like things that they like and temptations that they all eventually overcome in one way or another. And you know, ultimately it is a bittersweet kind of ending, but at the same time, it just that last episode
like a chocolate chip.
Like a chocolate chip.
Sorry,
a bitter sweet a semi-sweet chocolate chip. It's still chocolate, but it's
but
still bitter.
It's chocolate, and therefore it's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of bitter because it's only semi-sweet.
Yep, because most of it's cocoa.
Made you think.
So it's like
Are you done?
Yeah. Long story short, I still buy it. It's still great. It's still great.
Ben's recommendation for this month is Cowboy Bebop. Pick it up at your local Warget store.
Warget.
All right, now on to the meat, because I'm sure you're all, if anyone's still listening after that. Oh.
Did you want to talk about Death Note at all?
No.
Well, all right.
All I have to say is that it just gets a lot worse after the main antagonist dies.
It is. I actually went back and watched it. You're right. I wish I didn't.
The second antagonist that ultimately is supposed to be, based on what happens in the show, is supposedly a more clever and challenging foe.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come across that way. Like, I wouldn't engage it as such.
I'll say this much: my favorite line out of any anime comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like in the very, like, you don't have to watch.
And it's gods of death love apples.
No, it's actually better. And you don't have to go far into the series to see it. It's like one of the first or second, like it's like the second or third episode.
Okay, go to the third episode at the 21-minute mark and write down the first 3 words you hear and email it in to wefoundabook@gmail.com to hear Ben's favorite line from.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Ben, go ahead.
It's he just finds the book and he's like killing people, but he's trying to make it inconspicuous. So he's in his room and he's like he opens a bag of chips and he's like, I take a potato chip and eat it. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
It's the so best funny part because he's super serious. He's like, I'll make it look like nothing's happening. I turn on TV.
I take a potato chip and eat it. Crunch.
Yeah. It's the most epic potato chip munching I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, it was pretty mighty. But yeah, for my month, I went down to Pennsylvania to Du Bois. And
you did Bois?
To Du Bois, yeah. That's where we went. And we just Okay. So, for those of you who didn't listen to last month's episode, you should before you listen to this month's.
I mean, 2 months ago.
2 months ago, the 11th, episode 11.
Yep.
Listen to that one first, okay? Because this is reliant on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, are you excited?
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Are you upset that Whitney's not here?
Let's get into the story.
Okay. Episode 12. No, chapter 12.
Episode 12. A New Hope.
A new pope.
A new pope.
Episode 12.
A new star pope.
A new pope. Chapter 12. This one's called. What do you think it's called, then? Last one was called Puppety Hands.
It's called Puppety Hands. It's called Puppety Feet.
Puppety Feet. No,
Dancing man's Puppety Feet.
Ooh. I would go to that store, that bar.
Dancing man puppy feet.
Mm-hmm. Puppety feet. Dancing man's puppety feet. Oh, it's actually called Puppety or Hands.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's just dive into it without any further ado.
Bam.
Okay.
Wait.
Maestro stood in his workshop dumbfounded, staring at the vacant workbench.
That was awesome. I'm cutting it there just because I don't want to get any worse. That was a cut. We'll see you next week, guys.
Goodbye. We'll see you next month.
See you next month.
That's all you get. You just have to listen to Ben talk about Cowboy Bebop for like 20 minutes.
I'll make that'll be the next podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Maestro stood in his workshop, dumbfounded, staring at his vacant workbench. He was convinced that he had left his sacred puppet right upon the desk's center. My eyes must be playing tricks on me, he thought as he groped the air in front of him, yet he felt nothing. He drew his hand from the blank space. It was then that he heard a muffled clunking on the floor above him. Maestro picked up a chisel and silently crept up the stairs, ready to chase out one of the raccoon-sized rats that had become a fixture in Silverwheat as of late. He turned around after a few moments, though, to exchange the chisel for a Slicinator 5000. Maestro smirked and headed back up the stairs to deal with his infestation. When he reached the top of the stairs and opened the door to the kitchen, he didn't find any oversized rodents biting into a bag of sugar or scrounging in the waste bin for food scraps. In fact, there wasn't anything out of the ordinary in the room. That was, of course, until he cast his eyes over to the dining room table. When he saw what sat there, his mouth fell open. "Papa, this stew doesn't taste very good," said an Amogus puppet, sitting with a bowl of cherry root stew on the table and a spoon in hand. It looked into Maestro's face with unmoving eyes. The awestruck father rushed to the puppet's side and held the toy against him. "You weren't where I left you when I woke up this morning," sobbed the bereaved father. "And get that stew out of your mouth, Hugh. I made it days ago." "But you were making it last night. You know, while I was working on my first puppet, but I fell asleep before I could eat any." The boy trailed off as his puzzle box of a mind attempted to recall the circumstances of the night in question. He scrunched up his eyes and made fists with his hands, dropping his spoon on the table. Maestro embraced his son, wiping a few insects from the boy's head. "Don't you worry about that, my boy. Let me fix you up something fresh." But the father stayed, kneeled there with his arms still wrapped around the puppet, tears streaming down his face. It took him a while, but he did eventually stand up and began fixing a fresh meal. As he rubbed his hands in cool water from a bucket, he noticed a few white ants crawling down his arm. He snatched one of them and examined it in between his fingers as he washed the others into the bucket to drown with soap and water. He saw the ant's jaws working wildly, trying to gnaw at his fingers. It struggled violently as its body would allow, but the craftsman crushed the creature's body between his fingers and thought nothing else of it. After they had eaten, he looked up at his father and said, "My head hurts, Papa." "Let's get you to bed. You'll feel better come morning," Maestro said, lifting the puppet up in his arms. He carried him downstairs, and before long, he would drift off, and the father was placing him back upon the workbench. "You left your clothes," the man half mumbled to himself, and half to no one at all. Maestro climbed the stairs once more to grab some of Hugh's clothes from a pile that was meant to be sent off for washing, and returned to the basement where he adorned the Amogus toy in them. It was the spitting image of the child he had lost. He smiled to himself and went upstairs to drift off for the night. A tradesman sat in a chair that barely contained his bulk. Fat spilled over either armrest as he took a breath from his roast beef sandwich to catch his breath. Across from him was another man with a much more average build, sitting bolt upright, seemingly uncomfortable with the massacre taking place in front of him. He gingerly placed his spoon into a bowl of carrot broth neatly centered in front of him and asked, "Do you have to eat like that?" "Like what?" his companion gargled back. Is it possible to gargle a salad? Because that is what was happening between this man's throat and his meal. "Like your sandwich did you some terrible injustice and you're exacting your revenge?" chided the rigid man. The other grumbled and shifted in his chair, causing it to groan right back at him. "I'm just enjoying my meal," he finally let out. "Well, could you try and enjoy yourself a little less? It's making it difficult for me to get anything down at all." The stiff man picked up his spoon again and changed the subject. "Have you seen Maestro around lately? It's been a while since he's dropped in for new fabrics." "I've heard his boy had an accident. Word is the poor lad didn't make it." He took a pause to take another massive gulp of beak. "It would make sense that he'd take a break from work." "Indeed, but it's been over a month, has it not? He's got to start working sometime, whether he's in mourning or no. At least so he can put some food on the table," said the taller of the two as he scooted forward in his chair to avoid soup dripping on his finely tailored slacks. The stout man simply shrugged as his mouth was full, and that was just about all that he could manage. Maestro opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling for over an hour before he mustered the energy necessary to roll out of bed and head to the bathroom. His feet, one bearing a slipper and the other not, dragged along the floor as he made his way down the hall. Before passing Hugh's room, he poked his head in and said, "Time to get up, sleepyhead." The man watched as his son sat up and swung his legs over the side of his bed. His father smiled tiredly at him and continued on his way. Once inside of the small upstairs bathroom with the door shut behind him, he examined his face in the mirror. What looked back at him was unkempt, to say the least. A scraggly beard poked out in all directions from skin that hung loose and sallow from his skull. His once full cheeks and healthy color had left him for want of sun and nourishment. Eyes had become dark pits from which white ants flitted back and forth. Maestro lifted his clenched fists to his face and rubbed at them. All he succeeded to remove, however, was sand left there by the Night Father. In fact, when his eyes returned to the mirror, the numbers of white ants had doubled. They darted from their original positions to take cover in his auburn hair. Defeated, the man shuffled down the stairs and began to busy himself fixing breakfast for his son. "Oi, constable!" cried the lumberer, walking through the door of the Twisted Stallion to a robust man with a bushy gray mustache hunkered down at the bar. "Anything new on the toy maker, Maestro?" He questioned as he labored the stool neighboring the constable with his corpulent stature. "I can't discuss peacekeeping business with the general public," grumbled the constable through his mustache as he scooted down the bar until the lumber salesman's body was no longer touching him. The salesman ordered 2 mutton burgers before responding. "The toy maker was a close associate of mine. I truly care for his well-being." As he spoke, he intermittently checked the door to the kitchen, impatiently awaiting his meal. The constable sat there for quite a long time, eyes on the various spirits lined up behind the bar, but he could feel the salesman's looking at him. When his food arrived and the constable could hear lips smacking on top of the weight of his gaze, he sighed and said, "Fine, I'll tell you, but you have to sit somewhere else once I'm done." The man nodded, placing his burger back on the plate, but not letting go of it. After receiving so many reports of good Maestro's disappearance and knocking on his door for hours on end, we had no choice but to knock it down. "What happened then?" asked the lumberer, with burger back in his mouth. The constable rolled his eyes and said, "Well, we saw it. He was standing in his kitchen, cradling a puppet dressed in his boy's clothes, the ones he died in. The thing laid limply in Maestro's arms as he just kept spooning what looked like week-old soup into the puppet's mouth. When we were finally able to get that wretched thing away from him, the boys and I discovered poor little Hugh lying on the workbench in the basement. But the thing was that the boy's wounds didn't match the ones Pottinger wrote on his report. There were extras." "What do you mean there were extras?" "There was a gaping hole in the boy's chest where his heart should have been. You can understand how this shocked me when the report only mentioned a missing index finger. Apparently, Maestro had transplanted the heart into the chest of that puppet he had been cradling when we walked in. I guess he'd been caring for that thing as if it were Hugh, and nothing had ever happened. So what did you do with him?" "The boy? We had him buried, of course, rest his little soul." "Or did you mean Maestro? We threw him outside of the city walls. Just didn't feel right throwing the poor man in jail, but we can't have people like that just running around the city." No, not them, the puppet. What did you do with the puppet?" Moral: don't eat like a pig or no one will want to be your friend.
Really?
Yeah.
What an insightful moral.
Mm-hmm.
It makes so much
I
sense.
think it just sums up the story as a
It
whole.
does.
Yeah?
It does.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about what did happen to the puppet.
I don't know. That's where the story ends.
I'm even more curious as to how Maestro is now a puppet.
It's not a puppet.
That's what I heard. No, maybe not a. Oh, I don't know. He seemed like. It seemed like
You're a puppet.
Maybe I am a puppet.
You're a puppet.
You're a puppet.
You're a towel.
Oh, my little puppets.
What were you saying?
That part in the story where Maestro walks over to the mirror and he's got these little white ants walking around, and it's like, oh, they would be there because he's made of wood. He's a puppet.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe he's got like a wooden body now. Maybe he was just like one day he was just like, I'm gonna make myself a wooden body.
Maybe they're just infesting his brain.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a thing?
That's what I was thinking. Maybe they're like these. Maybe it's an allegory for insanity.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're an actual creature in this world that just like drives people insane, and the only people who can see them are the people who are being inflicted by them.
It's like what happens when you do crazy drugs
Crazy drugs.
Maybe that root stew that was so old got fermented, and
Ooh,
it gave him craziness.
It's interesting. They gave him the crazy.
It gave him the crazies.
That's an interesting thought.
Mm.
See, I don't know why the author didn't just make those two stories one. I feel like both of them could have been one story.
Yeah.
What a punk.
Yeah, it seems
He's
like
probably just trying to bank on more content.
Yeah, it seems
by
like
making it two
seems
separate
like
pieces.
lazy. Seems like lazy authorship.
Mm-hmm. And we, as people, consumers, can say that. Because it's true. It seems very lazy.
Yeah.
Shame on you, sir.
Shame on anybody who
Shame,
tries to do that.
shame on you.
Shame on
Shame
who?
on you. Shame on who?
Shame on you.
Shame on who? Shame on the who.
Where's their new album?
Who's on first? How'd they let that happen? I don't know. It's not okay.
It isn't.
I know that. So, Ben, thoughts? Any additional thoughts? You said thoughts.
I did. Thoughts. There you go.
Thank you. I will store those for later and rely on them for sustenance.
Yeah.
Sustenance. So if you have nothing else to say, I don't really have anything else to say about this story. Interesting. Yeah. I hope it's addressed further, just like something about it. It was very matter of fact.
It's not a very open
happened. There wasn't much narration in this one.
Yeah,
it seems like the author's growing in his writing abilities. And he doesn't rely as much on narration to carry the plot line. Yeah.
It's more dialogue driven.
Mm-hmm. Which I like. It's not bad. It's a nice. It's a nice change of pace. So, what's next month?
It's a 1 year anniversary.
September 1st was the month we first put out our very first podcast.
Was the first time we put out.
It's the first time we
first
put
podcast.
out. You know, we live our lives, but you got to put out at one point or another. And that's when we put out, and it's been a year since then, and we feel. What do you think? I think we feel that it's cause to celebrate. What was that? It's cause to celebrate, and I can think of no better way. I can think of many better ways, but I can think of nothing else I'm going to do.
Wait. Let's say it on three.
1, 2, 3.
Express
Drown
our
a
hollow
baby.
feelings.
What? What'd you say? Say yours first.
I said celebrate the podcast with a special memoriam episode.
Like, what will that entail?
Well, who knows?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
We haven't talked about this.
We haven't discussed it with the book yet.
Well, that's very true, actually. What we have talked about, though, is the premise of turning this. Well, as you all, I'm very sure know. I know that you know that we produce our podcast and then we put it out onto YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and
I skinned it into the back of a dead elephant's hide.
Yeah, like you transcribed it.
Yeah,
and I know you consume them on all those platforms. You listen to it 3 times. And
the elephant husk is a pretty popular one. You listen to
it 3 times and read it on the elephant husk. It is pretty popular. The numbers on those are ridiculous. You can tell by how worn the piece of husk gets.
Yeah, and people just put little slivers of like how many times they've read it.
Yeah,
it's getting really up there.
What it was called, ticks.
Yeah, little ticks.
And I know you consume them on all those, but like the YouTube platform is being underutilized, I feel. And
gonna add some meat to that
content. Yeah, if you're gonna watch it on YouTube or have it play in the background, why not throw some video in there
and watch our sweaty faces?
And you missed out. Ben just buttoned up his button down actually, but it was just open. I got to see his glistening body. And maybe next month you will too.
You never know.
I think that could be a thing from then on.
Sure.
So, yeah, look forward to that.
Absolutely.
Ben, any other thoughts, feelings?
Can't wait to see you all next month.
Can't wait for you to see us
next month.
You haven't seen us yet.
Yeah, I'll have to shower for this time.
I never shower. Ever.
Keeps you ripe.
You know, in olden days, when the king was riding back into town, he'd be like, "Send word to my queen not to shower. I like her ripe." That's a thing.
Who doesn't?
That was a real thing.
That was a real thing?
It's still a thing. in my home.
I just imagine some some exhausted, like, grizzled businessman coming home. He gets in his car. He pulls out his phone.
He gets in the he gets in his Uber. He gets in like a cab to the airport, and he gets on the phone and he calls his wife. Don't shower, honey. I'm coming home.
I'm on the overnight trip. I want you nice and ripe when I get home.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you know what we did do yesterday? What I did?
What?
Is I did a handstand.
Hey.
And while doing that handstand, I ripped my shorts right open.
Ayo.
And I will show those to you right now.
He's pulling out a pair of red pants.
Shorts. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Not where you expect it to rip.
No,
is it?
and not nearly that bad.
Right in the front.
It's wide open.
From crotch to leg.
Yeah.
And then these little kids came over and they were like hanging out with us, and I felt weird.
Just going for the full thing?
I felt like I can get in trouble right now.
Where was this that you were hanging out?
At our buddy Brandon's house.
Oh, that's right.
There's a little park near his house, and I was like, I'm going to do a handstand. And then they ripped. So it's all right, though. These ones were missing a button.
One of those good old-fashioned Benjamin buttons.
So it's okay. All right, folks. I think this is where we'll leave you.
Sure is.
Check us out on all of those things I mentioned already. Thank you to Wacko Fest for your continued
support and
letting
musical...
us use the music you made for us.
Yes.
Yes, that. Email us at wefoundabook@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook us on our Facebook, We Found a Book. Twitter us on our Twitter at We Found a Book.
Mm-hmm. SoundCloud
Google
us on our SoundCloud
at We Found a Book. Google Plus us on our Google Plus at We Found a Book. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Anything else? Come to Ben's house.
Yeah. Listen to me drone like this.
Okay. During this episode, you may have noticed that I said several things, several web addresses and timestamps and things that you could email in. If you have picked up on the code transcribed in all of those different facets, then you will know Ben's address. And so you can come and visit him. And don't stop being beautiful.
There's also clues in...
That was my sign out, but continue.
There's also clues to my address in... Hey.
What?
There are also clues to my address hidden in the sequel to Nicolas Cage's
The Yellow
world-renowned movie, National Treasure 2.
The White Pages.
The White Pages.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
The Buffalo White Pages. All right, folks. Just stay beautiful. Ben?
Bye.
Bye.
I clipped the audio again. I wasn't even trying to.
That's okay. I love you.
Boom.